What's up traders? In today's video, I will be performing a market forecast on Euro USD using smart money concepts. So stay tuned. Now, the purpose of today's video is to give you guys more of a longer term outlook on what I'm anticipating price action to do here on Euro USD going into the end of Q1 and into Q2, all right? Now, we're going to start off here on the weekly chart, and as you guys can see, we've recently had a weekly bearish break of structure to the downside, which has then given us this larger bearish weekly range that price action is currently trading within, all right? We've seen the formation of a new weekly lower low. We had a very nice bullish pullback, which pushed price back into this particular weekly supply zone. Now, this supply zone is well priced because it sits at the equilibrium of the overall bearish range. Towards the end of January, we saw the mitigation of that supply zone, and we had a very nice bearish reaction to that supply zone. So from a weekly point of view, we are bearish. We have now seen the mitigation of a supply zone. The anticipation overall is for us to now have that bearish continuation, push price action back down, targeting this weekly low in here. All right. Now, what I want to bring your attention to is this weekly demand zone in here that price action is currently interacting with right now. Now, this particular weekly demand zone in here is extremely significant because it is the first demand zone that price action is interacting with here on the weekly chart after the mitigation of this weekly supply. So if price action is to push lower, and if we are to see that bearish continuation, it means that this particular weekly demand would need to fail. Remember, in order for price action to move in one direction or the other, either supply needs to be in control or demand needs to be in control. As soon as we see this particular demand zone holding, okay, it might be an early indication that price action could be giving us a slightly deeper bullish pullback into premium pricing to potentially mitigate one of these previously unmitigated weekly supply zones that are still present on the chart. All right, so at the moment, we would like to see how price action interacts with this demand zone. Obviously, if this demand zone does fail, we can then anticipate price action to continue with that bearish continuation, all right? And then we would be looking for price to reach this weekly demand zone down here, okay? Now, once we drop down to that daily chart, you will see how all of this translates and how all of this interacts when looking at it from a multi-time frame analysis point of view. Straight off the bat, you can see that this in here is that weekly demand zone that we've just marked out. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove it from the daily chart because you can see that we have this daily demand zone that obviously is a slightly more refined zone of that weekly zone. Now, when we're looking at it from a daily point of view, we can quite clearly see that the daily chart is currently still pointing bullish. All right, our most recent break of structure was a bullish break of structure to the upside as price action traded into that weekly supply zone. We obviously had a new daily high form, which gave us this new bullish daily range. Now, obviously, after the mitigation of that weekly supply zone, we had this bearish reaction. Now, that bearish reaction to the weekly supply zone was essentially the bearish pullback, all right, of this particular bullish range. So what that means is we essentially saw price action pulling back towards discounted pricing of that overall bullish range. And if we zoom in a little bit closer, we can see that price action has now come in to interact with this daily demand down here, which is essentially the extreme zone of this larger daily range. So one of two things are going to be happening here. Again, obviously, because we are currently in a bullish range on the daily chart, because price action is still pointing bullish on the daily chart, all right, what we want to see from a daily point of view is we would like to see some bullish continuation, okay, up towards this daily week high. Now remember, your lower time frames move a lot faster than your higher time frames. In this particular situation, your daily time frame is a lower time frame when compared to the weekly time frame. So what this means is, in order for us to see that bearish continuation continue, all right, on the weekly chart, we would realistically want to see our daily chart switch from this bullish price action to bearish price action. And the point at which our daily chart is going to switch from bullish to bearish is when our daily strong low gets violated. All right. Now, a couple of things that we want to look out for. As price action is interacting with this daily demand, we would like to see whether or not it can push price action higher towards the week high. Now, interestingly enough, price action has recently mitigated this intermediate daily supply in here that formed after the initial bullish reaction to this daily extreme zone. Okay, and we've seen a very nice bearish reaction to that zone. So if this supply continues to hold, it could be strong enough to push price action through this particular strong low. However, if that supply zone fails, it would suggest that demand is still firmly in control, and we could be seeing a bullish continuation here, because remember, our daily chart is still bullish. Now, to give us just a little bit more confirmation as to whether or not we're going to be seeing that bullish continuation on the daily, I want us to drop down to the 4-hour chart. And if we look at the 4-hour chart, you'll notice that the 4-hour chart is currently pointing bearish, because our most recent break of structure here on the 4-hour chart was this bearish break of structure down here, which created, all right, a new 4-hour lower low, all right, and that gave rise to this bearish 4-hour range. Now, if I go back to the daily chart very quickly and I show you guys this, because we were, after forming this new daily high, because we were bearish, it would make sense for our 4-hour chart to be pointing bearish at the moment. Why? Because price action was in a bearish pullback phase. So obviously, it stands to reason that this particular bearish pullback phase will end when the 4-hour chart switches from bearish to bullish. So what do I mean by that? Even though we are currently trading within a bearish range on the 4-hour chart, we will know for sure that the bullish continuation on the daily chart has started once this 4-hour strong high fails. Okay, I'll say that again. Because the 4-hour is currently pointing bearish, all right, and because we have now mitigated a demand zone in discounted pricing of the overall bullish daily range, okay, in order for us to see bullish continuation on the daily time frame, this particular 4-hour high will need to fail, because once this 4-hour high fails, we will know that price action would have gone from a bearish market state to then a bullish market state. All right. Now, after price action created the new 4-hour low, we had a nice pullback, which mitigated essentially the extreme of this 4-hour range. Now, it stands to reason that this 4-hour high, which is essentially a lower high when compared to this high in here, this particular 4-hour high failed, or is currently failing, to create a new 4-hour lower low. So that means that this particular 4-hour high is potentially weak. Okay, so at the moment, even though the 4-hour is bearish, there is a possibility that price action could push a bit higher, potentially violate this 4-hour high, and potentially violate the 4-hour strong high. Now, we know that once this 4-hour strong high is violated, it will be the confirmation that we are now seeing that bullish continuation on the daily chart. All right. So from a 4-hour point of view, we are bearish, but we are in a range that is currently vulnerable. All right. when looking at it from an intraday trading point of view, because my 4-hour is still pointing bearish, okay, I will be looking for selling opportunities in this area. Why? Because my 4-hour is still pointing bearish. I trade what's in front of me. The only time I stop looking for selling opportunities is once the 4-hour strong high is violated. Okay, it's important for you to be open to taking trades on both sides, whether it's a buy or a sell, but it's also important for you to have a directional bias. So I am keeping my higher time frame context in mind. When looking at the daily chart, I'm keeping in mind the fact that we are currently trading out of an extreme zone that sits within discounted pricing, and there is the anticipation for bullish continuation to take place. However, at the moment, my 4-hour is still pointing bearish, and the only time the 4-hour is going to switch bullish is when this 4-hour strong high gets violated. All right, so going into March, very, very interesting area that EUR/USD is currently finding itself in. So just to recap very quickly, if we look at the weekly chart once again, overall, the weekly chart is pointing bearish because we've just seen the mitigation of this weekly supply zone. We are anticipating overall for price action to trade down towards this weekly low, or at least this weekly demand zone. However, price action is currently interacting with a very significant demand zone. If this demand zone holds, we could be seeing a deeper pullback into premium pricing of the weekly range. Okay, if the weekly demand zone fails, then we could be seeing that bearish continuation. Now, if this weekly demand zone does hold, then we see that bullish, that deeper pullback, that would be in line, okay, with this particular daily time frame, which is currently pointing bullish. All right, this would mean that we would be seeing bullish continuation here on the daily chart, and then we can anticipate price action to at least target this daily week high. All right, obviously, if our daily strong low is violated, that means that the weekly demand zone has failed, and we're obviously anticipating that bearishness to step in. We can then target these daily demand zones down here. All right, and then purely from a 4-hour point of view, we use the 4-hour to help confirm whether or not we have that bullish continuation on the daily chart, or whether we have that bearish continuation on the weekly chart. All right, now if you guys enjoyed the video, please make sure that you give it a like, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any future content. I appreciate you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.